Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to today's edition of Intuitive Angling. And man, I really appreciate you guys coming by the channel to spend some time with me watching this video. Always very thankful for that. Guys, today we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about fishing during muddy water conditions, because the thing about bass fishing is if you fish long enough, if you fish regularly, you're going to come into some contact with muddy water at some point. It's just inevitable. It's part of the cycle of bass fishing. So I'm going to give you guys some good strategies and tips to approach that when you do get it, because sometimes it can be challenging. If you're not familiar with how to fish muddy water and it's sort of new to you, there's some things that you definitely need to know that can help you out. So I think this is going to be a really informative video for everybody. Also, guys, quick reminder, anyone out there interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, you can do that by going to my Facebook page, Randy Block at Professional Angler. Just shoot me a private message. I'll get you all set up for that. So much appreciated. Okay, guys, let's talk. I want to talk about, this is sort of going to be a wide-ranging deal, because when you're talking about muddy water, there's a lot of different variables that go into that. It's not just, the water's muddy, let's go fishing. You have to consider the water temperature. You have to consider the degree of muddiness. Is it chocolate milk muddy, or is it just stained muddy? There's a lot of different variations to that. So the correlation between the exact visibility that you have in the muddy water versus the water temperature versus the water level is also going to have an impact, because a lot of times traditionally associated when you have muddy water, sometimes you have a rising water. Not all the time. You can get muddy water coming into a lake and they pull it real hard and the lake doesn't come up. But a lot of times when you have dirty, muddy water in the lake comes up too. So we're going to sort of go into that. First of all, let's talk a little bit about when you want to take advantage of muddy water. Sometimes you want to run away from it. You don't want to be in muddy water, and that has to do with your water temperature. Guys, if you're fishing and the water temperature is below 55 degrees, you really need to get out of the mud. If you have some muddy water coming in, like up in the river arms or the back of the creeks, the water temperature is below 55 degrees, you really need to get to the cleaner water wherever you can find it. But if the water temperatures are above 55 degrees, on up to as warm as they get, muddy water can actually help you out, because it puts fish sort of in a mood and personality in a zone that they normally aren't. They take advantage of that muddy water real quick, and that's what we're going to get into a little bit in the video here. So first of all, what is muddy? What do you classify as muddy? There's a difference between muddy water and chocolate milk water. Now, chocolate milk water is water visibility that has like less than, say, 2 or 3 inches of visibility. If you're fishing where it's chocolate milk, where you don't have but just a couple inches of visibility, that's not going to be good anytime. It's like you need to have a little bit of clarity, and you don't have to have much. I mean, I've caught a lot of fish out of water visibility that you can see that far down in, but you don't want to ever like put a bright colored lure in the water and have it disappear like you're putting it in a glass of chocolate milk. That's you need to find some other type of water. A lot of times, if you find that, say for example, you're fishing back in a creek arm or up the river part of an area, and you've got that real dirty chocolatey milk, a lot of times you can either move up the creek a little bit or down the creek a little bit, and you can get into a little bit more better clarity. It doesn't have to be much, but just a little bit more. So for all practical purposes, when I talk about fishing muddy water, I'm talking about fishing water visibilities that are less than 12 inches, less than a foot in visibility, and specifically about 6 inches. A perfect muddy water situation for me is 4 to 6 inches of visibility, because it's muddy and it will position those fish shallow, yet you have enough clarity where those fish are active and are going to bite your lure. So that's the first thing. Second thing with that is you got to consider your water level. Now, if you have rising water with muddy water, you have to move up with that water. You can't stay out and fish the deeper cover if that water gets muddy. So say, for example, you're fishing, if you've had a week of rain on your lake, the lake's starting to come up and the water's muddy. If you've got some flooded cover, like, it could be flooded bushes or flooded trees in water depth that is over 3 feet deep, you need to get shallower than that, because if you have water visibility that's only 2, 3, 4 inches in visibility, those fish are not going to be in those deeper bushes that are in 3, 4, 5, 6 feet of water. So If you're in muddy water and the water's coming up, always try to get farther closer to the bank. So say for example, if the water's up 4 or 5 feet and you've got some cover, you're fishing out on the edge in 4 or 5 foot of water, and then if you look up by the bank, you may have some flooded grass or some flooded bushes or something in shallower water. Try to target that water less than 3 feet. That's the magic thing. If you're fishing water visibility that's muddy, try to concentrate in 3 feet of water or less. That's where you're gonna have your best success at. So on top of that, another thing to remember is that if you're fishing cover, like flooded cover, they can possibly be anywhere. They could be on laydowns or grass or flooded bushes or flooded trees. But if the lake is not flooded and the water's muddy, you really want to concentrate on the bank around rock or some type of wood. And if you're fishing, say for example, on your favorite lake and the water turns muddy, you got some rocky banks, those fish are going to get right up on that bank super shallow in less than 3 foot of water. So when you're fishing muddy water, always make sure that your lure always hits the bank within inches of the bank. So because a lot of times those fish are going to be in like that deep of water, especially if the water's a little bit warmer. Now I've got I'm going to show you guys 3 of my favorite lures here. And also guys, on all my favorite lures, I'll link all of them in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. If you guys want to get some muddy water lures, you can use my Tackle Warehouse link to get them. That's a good way to help the channel out. But I've got 3 primary approaches that I have with it. Now my first one is some type of a Colorado bladed spinnerbait. And I really like this orange kicker blade, either orange or red. Also, guys, I'll link this in the description where you can get this orange blade. But a Colorado bladed spinnerbait with an orange blade and some type of a brighter white or white and chartreuse skirt like this. I've got a Zoom Z-Crawl Junior trailer on it. You need a trailer also in muddy water. It gives it more bulk. But this lure right here puts off a lot of vibration. It displaces a lot of water. The fish can find it in dirty water. If you have that water visibility of a couple inches, that red blade really acts as a strike attractor. This is one of my biggest tips that I can give you guys in fishing in dirty water. Use your spinnerbait with that orange or that red blade on there. It makes a really big difference. Okay, the next one we're talking about, guys, is a dark colored jig. Now, my favorite is either a black and chartreuse like this or a black and blue with some type of a dark trailer on it. This dark jig like this is a really good lure in dirty water. And you want to use black because black silhouettes really well. And like I said, the black and chartreuse is a favorite of mine. If it's really dirty, black and blue works good, but you always want to use a black trailer like this black with blue sapphire Zoom Big Salty Chunk. Most of the time I'm using a 3/8 ounce or some type of maybe a 1/2 ounce. And the third one is a big square bill crankbait like this Megabass S Crank 2.0, chartreuse side, black back. This is the thing. You can see how bright this is and stands out. What are you doing there?
Good.
Well, do you need something?
Nothing. Let's get into the video.
Okay. Elijah's over here coloring next to the boat here. But anyway, this bright colored chartreuse blackback crankbait here, again, this puts out a lot of visual. If you have a little bit of clarity, if the fish get close to it, really stands out to them. Also, the big square bill really displaces a lot of water, puts out a tremendous amount of vibration. And you can throw these big square bills right on those rocky banks in dirty water. And I've had some awesome days. In fact, probably the best success I've had fishing muddy water has been throwing a big square bill like this or spinnerbait right up on the bank in that dirty water, followed up by flipping and pitching, this jig in any shallow cover, any shallow dirty cover with that. But the main thing, guys, is when you're fishing dirty water, you have to go shallow. You have to go shallow. You have to concentrate on whatever shallow cover is available depending upon your lake. You may have a lake that's got lily pad stems in it, shallow grass, rock, laydowns, anything like that. But don't get turned off by dirty water. If you go into an area of the lake that there's a concentration of bass, like a major creek arm, and you have muddy water in there, don't let that 2 or 3 inches of visibility scare you out of there. Just put some of the baits on that I talked about here in the video, get right up on the bank and just fish whatever you have to fish there. It can be really, really good and really fun. And another thing is that muddy water does not last a long time. It constantly changes. So normally what happens is you'll have, say for example, you're fishing a creek arm that's got some dirty water in it. A lot of times the upper end of that creek or the back end of the creek will clear up faster. and it just gets pushed down through the whole system. So a lot of times the back of the creeks will clear up faster, but there's usually always a degree of variation. If you have a creek that's this big, sometimes the back third's muddy, the middle's a little bit more suitable, the upper end is a little bit different. It all changes based upon how much water and current they're pulling down through the lake. But that's the main thing, guys, is just use bright lures that displace a lot of water. Get right up on the bank. Don't be afraid of that. And another thing, shade is not quite as important. When you have muddy water, you can catch them on sunny banks, even if the water's pretty warm. And any lure, like I said, that we talked about in the same type of class, even like a chatterbait or something like that, can be really good. So anyway, hope it helps out. We'll talk later.